Formula One has always thrived on evolution. New engines, new aerodynamics, and new strategies have reshaped the sport time and time again. But this time, the upcoming 2026 regulations have sparked an unprecedented wave of fear and frustration across the paddock. Drivers, team principals, and even longtime supporters of the FIA are warning that the future of the sport is in jeopardy. The debate centers on one simple but terrifying question. Will F1's push for sustainability kill the very essence of racing? With power units split 50/50ths between combustion and battery power, drivers could soon face cars that run out of energy just when they need it most, at the end of the straight during an overtake. And if the rumors are true, some stars, including Max Verstappen, may even consider walking away. Before we dive into the full story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because this is the kind of news that could define the future of Formula One, and you don't want to miss it. At the center of the storm shaking Formula One today are the 2026 regulations. On paper, they represent the boldest step F1 has taken in decades, aligning with the sport's commitment to reach a zero-carbon footprint by 2030. But the more we uncover about what's planned, the more voices from inside the paddock are sounding alarms. Team principals, engineers, and even the drivers themselves are questioning whether these rules will elevate the spectacle of Formula One or kill it entirely. The most controversial element is the new 50/50th split between internal combustion engines and electric battery power. It's a huge departure from what we see today. At first glance, it looks like progress, a clean, hybrid future that balances tradition with technology. But here's the twist. The system requires drivers to carefully manage their battery energy on every single lap. That means if you're behind, hunting your rival down, you could run out of deployment just when you need it most at the end of a straight during an overtake attempt. Instead of thrilling battles, we could see cars hesitating, coasting, or defending with no chance of a fight back. Fred Vasseur, Ferrari's team principal, has been one of the most vocal critics. His biggest fear? That the sport will fall into the trap of engine domination. He argues that in 2026, the engine, or more precisely, the power unit, will dictate success far more than aerodynamics or driver skill. He even drew a chilling parallel to 2009, when Brawn GP discovered the now infamous double diffuser loophole. No one saw it coming, and it gave them a huge advantage over every other team. In his words, nobody predicted 2009. You don't know, because it's the first time we've had such a big change of tyres, fuel, engine and chassis all at once. Vasseur warns that the 2026 cars will be less about pure horsepower and more about drivability, things like turbo lag, torque distribution and battery management. But here's the dangerous part. If one team nails the balance first, they won't just have the best engine. They'll likely dominate the entire package. We could be staring down another era of one-sided championships, where the battle for second is the only story left to tell. Even Toto Wolff, who has traditionally supported F1's evolution, is sounding cautious. For Wolff, the problem isn't just technical, it's financial. He calls it a dual cost program. Teams aren't just building new engines, they're also tasked with redesigning their chassis to fit an entirely new aerodynamic concept. That means double the resources, double the time pressure, and double the chance of getting something wrong. For the big players like Mercedes and Ferrari, it's painful but manageable. For midfield and smaller teams, though, it could be crippling. And Wolff knows that when the gap between rich and poor teams widens, the product on track inevitably suffers. Then there's the Red Bull dilemma, arguably the most fascinating subplot in this story. For the first time in their history, Red Bull is going it alone, building their own power unit. Christian Horner has compared the challenge to climbing Mount Everest, and he isn't exaggerating. Ferrari and Mercedes have decades of experience building engines. Red Bull, on the other hand, are venturing into uncharted waters. Some reports suggest their early prototype work has already shown weaknesses compared to the established giants. If Red Bull stumbles, it could fundamentally reshape the sport's hierarchy. And that's where things get really dramatic. Because if Red Bull falters, what does that mean for Max Verstappen? The reigning champion has been brutally clear in the past. He's not interested in spending years driving uncompetitive machinery. He has already hinted that if F1 ever loses its essence, he'd consider walking away. Imagine the shockwaves if Verstappen, arguably the sport's most dominant driver of this generation, decides to retire early or jump ship because of FIA mismanagement. Suddenly these aren't just rules, they're potential career-ending decisions for the sport's brightest star. It's not just the team principals voicing unease, the drivers themselves are divided. Charles Leclerc and Lance Stroll, after running prototypes in simulators, describe the cars as awkward and restricted, with energy management dominating the driving experience. They fear it could strip away the instinctive, flat-out racing that defines Formula One. On the flip side, veterans like Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso are more supportive. Hamilton believes challenges like this are part of what keeps the sport evolving, while Alonso, ever the survivor, welcomes the chance to outsmart younger rivals with his adaptability. But the split in opinions reveals a deeper issue. When half the grid is skeptical, it's a warning sign that the FIA may not have struck the right balance. One of the most controversial aspects of the regulations is the elimination of DRS. In its place will be a manual override system that allows drivers to temporarily increase battery deployment for overtakes. While some fans cheer the end of DRS fake passes, others worry this will make overtaking even harder. Picture this: two cars fighting down a straight. The car behind goes for the move, but just as they close in, their battery runs flat, leaving them stranded mid-attack. Instead of epic duels, we risk processions where drivers bide their time, waiting for the rare moment when energy and track position align perfectly. The consequences extend beyond individual battles. These regulations could create massive track-dependent performance gaps. A car optimized for low-drag circuits like Monza could dominate there, but then struggle massively at downforce-heavy venues like Singapore. We already see some of this under current rules, but with energy deployment playing such a central role, the swings could be even more dramatic. That means we might get a calendar where only a few teams can win on certain tracks, further fragmenting the championship narrative. From a fan perspective, this is dangerous territory. Formula One thrives on unpredictability, but unpredictability must come from competition, not from flawed regulations that handicap drivers. Fans want to see Verstappen, Hamilton, Leclerc, Norris and Russell fighting on equal terms, not being passengers in cars that run out of juice mid-battle. And yet, the FIA insists this is the future. They argue that sustainability, spectacle and innovation must coexist, and that short-term pain will bring long-term gain. The hope is that these regulations will push manufacturers to innovate in ways that ripple far beyond the paddock, influencing road cars and green technologies worldwide. It's an inspiring vision, but the risks cannot be ignored. If the FIA gets this wrong, they won't just damage competition, they could alienate the very stars and fans that keep the sport alive. Which brings us to the million-dollar question: is F1 risking too much? The sport has a history of surviving bold changes. The turbo era of the 1980s, the hybrid shift in 2014. Each time F1 reinvented itself and carried on, but this time feels different. The stakes are higher, the voices of dissent louder, and the possibility of drivers walking away more real than ever before. Because, make no mistake, this isn't just about engineering, it's about identity. Will Formula One in 2026 still be the pinnacle of motorsport, or will it become an over-engineered experiment that forgets what made millions fall in love with it in the first place? So here's the big question: is Formula One on the verge of engineering brilliance or engineering disaster? Will 2026 mark the dawn of a new golden era, or the breaking point where stars like Verstappen finally say, enough is enough? Let me know what you think in the comments, because the countdown to 2026 has already begun.